Good morning. Today is June 6, 2023, and welcome to the Operational Services Committee. We're the first committee of the day, so we will read the land acknowledgement. I guess I'll call it to order first, then we'll read the land acknowledgement. The city respectfully acknowledges the Beaver, Cree, Dene, and Métis people as the original caretakers of these lands and surrounding areas. We are grateful to live, learn, work, and play on Treaty 8 territory within Turtle Island and acknowledge these lands have been home to the diverse and sovereign First Nations and Inuit nations since time immemorial. All right. Do we have any delegations here? I see people that, no? We're good? All right. On this committee is Councillor Thiessen, Councillor O'Toole, Mayor Clayton, and myself, Councillor Bosch. We'll go right into our reports. Chief Glavin will give our service area report, please.
Thank you, Chair Bosch. We'll start off with an update on a major capital project on our end, which is the construction of the sound barrier at the Eastlink Centre. Construction continues, and the project is on schedule for completion by the end of the month. We don't see any key risks on that for that to change at this time. In energy and environment, we are currently sampling stormwater outfalls and are continuing a study that is to understand the impacts of plant material on water quality. This is a joint project with the Mighty Peace Watershed Alliance, Northwestern Polytechnic, and us as the city. In engineering services, we've posted tenders for Range Road 64 drainage improvements, a request for quotes for asphalt crack sealing at various sites throughout the city, RFP for bridge repair and maintenance program for the design and construction supervision. And we have also closed the RFP for the 2024 and 2025 road rehabilitation program design and construction supervision. Construction activities have started throughout the city. An open house is scheduled for June 15th at the Ernie Radbourne Pavilion in Muscogee Park from 5 to 7 to get input on a transportation study that is being conducted jointly with the city and the county for the Cowan land. This is south of the airport and west of 124th Street. The 108th Street and 84th Avenue intersection milling and paving work has been completed. This is where we had the large failure in the winter at that intersection that we had a temporary fix. It's now been fixed by the contractor. As well on 108th Street, Aquaterra undertook emergency repairs for water leaks that were detected that resulted in repairs needing to be done on both sides of 108th Street, south of 97th Avenue. Traffic remains open, but it's one lane at this time, and we're expecting the work to be done by this weekend. In facilities, a few projects that are currently underway. The Design Works Center and Day Bar Arena washroom partitions are underway for replacement. Flooring is being replaced at the Center for Creative Arts, and the Eastlink sound attenuation design was approved and is being scheduled for installation during the fall shutdown. The Bonnett's Energy Center truss repairs that were flagged will be undertaken between July 3rd and July 6th this summer. In transportation, crews have completed the first round of residential sweeping citywide. To date this year, we've removed about 9,400 metric tons of debris from city roadways, and crews will now focus on arterial roads and bus routes until the final residential rotation is completed in the fall. In parks, we're working to get back up to speed following the pause during the wildfires, so we worked some additional hours over the weekend to start catching up on grass, but by the end of this week, we should be pretty close to being back to where we would expect to be. In capital, our tree replacement program will commence this month with 120 trees set for installation at various locations. And for entrance signs, as part of the urban forest strategy, we've run into one, we'll call it an issue for now, which is the west entrance sign. Now that the province has announced, or has put money in for the design of the interchange for Highway 40X or the Ring Road, we are likely going to have a conflict with our sign that we're going to have to work through with Alberta Transportation. So that part of the project may be delayed. But other than that, the north entrance sign and then the the planting of groves along 100th Avenue will be completed in September of this year. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Chief Glavin. Right now we have Mayor Clayton first in line.
Thanks, Chair Bosch. Chief Glavin, can you give me an update? You mentioned a couple of facilities that are having some construction. Can you give council and committee an update on the construction project at Bonnet's in regards to council-funded extra money for a sponsored room, which was formerly known as the Son of M room? I know that there had been discussion that the construction that had initially been identified required more capital, and council approved that last capital budget. And I understand from the sponsor that there still hasn't been any work done.
Thank you, Chair Bosch. I'd have to get a detailed update on that in order to give you a briefing on that. I'm not sure if Chief Harrop might know if...
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. Anybody else with a question? Not seeing anything. Thank you, Chief Glavin, and I guess we'll move on. We're going to move on to reports in 4.2, and we're going to go in camera on that one. So I'm looking for a motion. Councillor Thiessen?
I move that we go in camera. Councillor Thiessen in favor?
It's coming.
So just a reminder, if you're not here for this in-camera session, we'll just ask you to leave the chambers. I voted, but I'm in favor. Okay. Candace, you're acting, so you should stay. Okay.
So Danielle, you're doing it, you said? Okay.
Good, or need time to get back on? That's why I'm asking.
Are we ready? Okay. Can you give me a nod when we're ready to go? Back in. Thank you for coming back to the Operational Service Committee. We probably lost you in that hour and 20 minutes. I'd like to blame it on the power loss, but no, it was just us talking, so our apologies. In any case, we're going to move on to 4.2, and we'll have Chief Whiteway introduce the ATCO Streetlight.
Thank you very much, Chair Bosch. So the recommendation today is that committee recommend council accept the ATCO streetlight conversion proposal, which would use 100,000 of the funds from ATCO to convert 23 private lights, 152 400-watt lights, and 4 1,000-watt lights to LED, and 500,000 to catch up backlog of streetlight repairs. Secondly, committee recommend council allocate the remaining funds received from the proposal to the Financial Stabilization Reserve. So just to speak a bit on this, the City of Grande Prairie has a franchise agreement with ATCO, which establishes the terms and conditions under which ATCO will operate and maintain streetlights within the municipality. ATCO owns all the streetlights and decorative streetlights within the city. Within these, there are 2 different classes of lights, either invested or non-invested streetlights. The difference between the 2 classes of lights is that with non-invested, the city is responsible for paying the energy charges, repairs, maintenance, installation, and end-of-life costs. In comparison, invested streetlights are paid for at a constant rate monthly to ATCO to keep these lights in good working order. The lifespan of a streetlight is expected to be approximately 25 years. And the average age of the non-invested streetlights is 19 years, with many streetlights at or near end of life. The City and ATCO have discussed the merits of converting non-invested streetlights to invested streetlights, and ATCO has submitted a proposal for conversion, which is attached to your report today. Should the city choose to convert all streetlights to invested, the lights will then qualify for the LED conversion multiplier program, meaning that ATCO will replace all high-pressure sodium with LED lights as part of this proposal. ATCO no longer carries or installs HPS lights, and as non-invested lights fail, the city would be required to update to LED. ATCO's proposal has 2 steps. Step 1 converts non-invested lights to invested ones. Upon converting to invested, the city will receive $4.375 million. Step 2 consists of the LED conversion. In this proposal, ATCO will upgrade 4,684 HPS streetlights to LED. Converting the streetlights to invested will require an increase to the city's annual utility budget. Currently, this is estimated to be an increase of $1.2 million. However, we are recommending that the funds from ATCO received upon conversion, that $4.375 million, be utilized to stabilize this increase over time via the Financial Stabilization Reserve. Acceptance of this proposal will evenly distribute costs over the budget cycle, allow us to catch up backlog repairs at a fraction of the estimated costs, and action the conversion to LED now rather than later. The conversion will reduce the city's future energy consumption and maintenance costs compared to HPS, as well as increase the fixture's lifespan. Finally, by accepting the proposal, the responsibility of administration of inventory and timely repairs and maintenance will no longer fall within the scope of the city, but rather with ATCO, who have the necessary expertise to support and maintain this critical city infrastructure effectively. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Whiteway. Is there any questions from committee? Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you very much, Chair Bosch. Just a question for Ms. Whiteway. In regards to the $600,000 a year repair maintenance costs to the street poles, would we be responsible for paying that, so over and above our $1.2 million additional utility charge with or without the transition to ATCO for these streetlights? So to say that if we were to go all invested, would we still be paying $600,000 a year plus $1.2 million extra utility costs?
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Bosch. So we would be increasing the operating budget by $1.2 million with this proposal. If the proposal is not accepted, we would still be looking to increase the operating budget by at least $600,000.
And that $600,000, that's already baked into the 1.2?
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thiessen. Mayor Clayton.
Thanks, Chair Bosch. I know it's in here, I've seen it somewhere, but can you tell me the timeline of the conversion to LED?
I think that the proposal was 6 months. With everything, I'd have to read it again. But it was done in April.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? I have a question. Is there any penalties that can, come up for any kind of reason with us going into this type of agreement, other than if we ask light poles to be taken down prior to their 25 years?
So on the invested rate, all costs incurred would be ATCO Electric's responsibility. The only time there would be a cost to the city is in a situation where, right, if you wanted a pole moved for some reason, things like that, or if you wanted a salvage, and things like that, just requested, additional requested work that wouldn't be end of life or a maintenance issue.
Okay, and all light poles are a decision of the city of Grande Prairie as where new ones go, or what we need or what we feel we need in certain areas, or does it all have to be approved through ATCO?
So the city tells us where, which subdivision or whatever they're wanting lights. We do studies and we have standards on how we place our lights, and that would be involved with the same regulations that Alberta Transportation has.
Right. So, for example, in front of Montrose, on the south side, there's no street lights there. And there's been requests from citizens that would like street lights there. But to date, there still is not. So if we requested that we wanted street lights there, would there be an issue? Okay, Michelle, go ahead.
Chair Bosch, so the Energy Department works with the Engineering Department, who tells us, who's done light studies and understands where there's lights required. So we would follow what our engineering department says is necessary. So many areas of our city are overlit, not as many are underlit. But we do follow what engineering as requested, and they use the Transportation Association of Canada standards.
Why are we overlit to begin with? I think that goes to Councillor Plot's comment earlier. Some areas are overlit and some we feel are under.
Chair Bosch, I'm not 100% sure of the answer, so I don't want to guess.
Okay. Any other questions? No? Anybody from outside of our committee? No? Okay. I'm looking for a motion to move forward. Mayor Clayton?
Thanks, Chair Bosch. I would move that committee recommends council accept the ATCO Streetlight conversion proposal, which would use $100,000 of the funds from ATCO to convert 23 private lights, which are 152 by 400 watt lights, and 4 times 1,000 watt lights to LED, and $500,000 to catch up the backlog of street light repairs. As well, in that motion, I would move that committee recommend council allocate the remaining funds received from the proposal to the Financial Stabilization Reserve.
Thank you. That is in order. Is there any comments? Councillor Palat.
Thanks, Chair Bosch. Again, I'm not a voting member on this, so I'm just more, when it comes to council, I'm just wondering if there's, if I need to make a motion at a later date, or if committee or if administration could bring back why we have as many lights or why we chose to have light spacing that we have, just as a conversation. I do have concerns if we go forward with this and then we decide later that we maybe do want to remove 1,000 lights or 500 lights, it's going to affect this contract. So I just would like to try to figure that out before and just kind of know going into that. If we did choose as a council, maybe I'm the only one with an appetite that wants to remove lights, but if we did that, I just don't want to, if we're going to move forward with this contract, I just don't want to make it a secondary issue for admin later on to try to amend and alter a contract.
I think in that vein, I already asked that question in regards to penalties, so that if we do pull, and can we put them somewhere else where we're underlit, for instance, and is there a penalty to that? So I think we just need a clear picture on that penalty piece, or to Councillor Palat's point where we feel it's overlit and underlit in some areas that we need to just change things up.
So sorry, can we deal with the motion on the floor before we go to another?
Sorry, mine was just a comment for admin to just, that's information I'd like to see.
Let's deal with that after
back,
the motion on the floor. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Thiessen?
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair Bosch. Yeah, I'm really torn on this one. The last time that we discussed investing in the non-invested streetlights or handing this transfer of assets over to ATCO, it was in 2017, and it says so much in the reports as well. I know administration's likely been working hard behind the scenes in order to bring this to fruition for this ATCO deal. But I just can't get over the costs that we're going to incur on a year-over-year basis versus the investment. And I think these streetlights currently being offered at $4.3 million coming to the city is still going to increase our overall utility budget by about 1% to the taxpayer every year. That's $1.2 million year over year. And that money, even if it's in our financial stabilization reserve for a couple of years.
It's not year over year.
Well, that's all right. That's okay.
Twice.
Fair enough.
Okay, no, just to clarify,
Yeah.
you said year after year.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for letting Mayor Clayton in the queue. Anyways, what I'd like to say essentially is that with this $1.2 million, obviously I need to understand it more, and obviously members of council need to understand it more to engage into a conversation 7 years after the last conversation happened to run right into a decision. To me, I don't like making decisions like that, and I do see the potential for a great benefit to ATCO, and I do see the value in these lights. And my personal opinion is I think it's a lowball, and we're going to pay more over the cost of the term of this deal than what we're actually comfortable with and what our taxpayers may like or not like with that. So for me, I won't support this motion today. I'm still hopeful it will go to council, but I'm a no for right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thiessen. Anybody else? Okay, we'll call the question. Oh, wait, Mayor Clayton.
Just quickly to close, I think that if committee members have questions that they need to be able to make the decision at council following the discussion on this motion, I can make a motion on Councillor Plot's request for additional information. If Councillor Thiessen, as a committee member, had questions that he needed information on in order to make this decision when it comes to council, I think a motion would be appropriate.
I do like that idea as well. I would like to add in there, Mayor Clayton, if you can add, I would like to see what it looks like for us to own the utility. It's happening.
That's a totally, yeah.
It's totally different. It's not friendly motion.
That's a significant undertaking.
Okay, we'll do this one first. Okay. I'm curious.
So just to follow up, if I could make a motion to ask administration to bring back a report that entails any contractual, any concerns with the contract in regards to the reduction of lights going forward. And speaking to that, as Councillor Platt indicated, there may be areas that are overlit. I think administration could, in that information, identify those areas. If we were able to, the other part of that, in that information that comes back, if there's a conversation with ATCO to look like, if it's a relatively new light pole that can be put to an area that's unlit. So what does it look like in the changing of the asset to highlight areas of our community that require a lighting change? So if that information could come back. And I guess my question for administration will be, is there enough time between now and council for that information to come back to make so that council can make a decision on this item?
Chief Glavin?
Thank you, Chair Bosch. I think it might be prudent to have it go to the following council meeting to allow us to bring forward a report back to committee for that information that's been requested.
Thank you. I do have a question. This new contract, if we go forward with it, how many years is it for?
So invested rates are 25 years.
Yeah, because in somewhere in here I read that we could pull out of this contract if we so choose, right?
It's not locked in at any time. We can if you choose to go change rates to non-invested at any time, you would just have to pay the prorated amount of whatever the investment was left over the 25 years.
So back to that penalty piece.
Yeah,
Okay.
That's the only penalty involved. You can salvage at any time, whatever you need to do for changing the lights. There's no problem with any of that.
So just for clarification for the public, if you come out of this contract, similar to a cell phone contract, you pay the remaining fees that are left on that. For us, for cell phones, it's 2 years. You pay that remainder to buy it out, basically. This is the same process.
Correct. Just for the investment piece.
Thank you. All right. Anybody have any comments to the motion on the table? I got it. Thank you. We'll call it to order, or call it to question. All right. Councillor Thiessen?
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair Boss. Heeding the mayor's advice, I'd like to make a motion subsequently to this last one, and I would move that administration provide council with a 25-year cost comparison on the total utility charge increase the city receive versus the maintenance upkeep charge if we were to keep non-invested lights. Speaking to this motion, I do have concerns that rising utility rates are going to outpace this relatively fast, probably within the first 5 years. As far as the maintenance and upkeep costs, I think over a 25-year duration, we might be able to see in that comparison that with that, it might even be cheaper for us to keep the lights as non-invested and to just do the maintenance as well, and as prescribed for the $600,000 a year regardless. So,
Thank you, Councillor Thiessen. That's in order. And comments, Mayor Clayton.
Just maybe clarification, do you mean the ongoing maintenance costs? Because I don't think that administration can speculate the ongoing utility charges for 25 years.
Mr. Thiessen?
sure, yeah, and you know what, we can keep the math simple on this one. I did the math simply at a potential $1.2 million increase to our overall utility charge per year times 25 years is about $30 million. So that's just based off of the numbers presented in the report. But I like to see it broken down. There's a lot of numbers in this report and a lot to understand in this offer. And I don't think we'd be acting fiduciarily responsibly without council knowing in the governance role exactly what these numbers entail going forward in the long haul.
Thank you, Councillor Thiessen. Chief Whiteway, can you make your comments on that?
Perhaps I could just add a little. We did do an analysis on a cash flow perspective over 25 years, and it is essentially, whether we stay status quo or accept the proposal, the same cash basis in either way. So you were not provided the spreadsheets that did analyze that, but it's cost neutral in either decision over a 25-year net present value of cash flows.
Councillor Blackmore?
I would ask Councillor Thiessen to clarify why changes in energy costs would be pertinent to this decision, because we're going to pay changes in utility costs, energy costs, regardless. That number is to me irrelevant to this decision, and so I would like to clarify. Do you actually mean that you want them to predict energy costs? Because I think that's what your motion currently states.
Councillor Thiessen?
No, I don't actually expect them to predict energy costs. I don't think any one of us can predict energy costs. And depending upon what other energy taxes are applied at different levels of government, we won't know. And it could change quite drastically from year to year. I'm just going off of the base estimate that was presented in this report at $1.2 million. And comparatively speaking, as our CFO has said, that we have the spreadsheets to look at. So could that be provided to council at the next meeting before we make our decision?
Thank you, Councillor Thiessen. Councillor Bressy.
Great, thank you. I'm open to correction misunderstanding this, but I also just think it's important to clarify. My understanding is this isn't actually a $1.2 million in spending increase. It's a budget increase. Right now, we're under budgeting how much we're actually spending on streetlights, and so our budget needs to be amended. And $900,000 of that amendment is just to reflect what we're already spending. Really, we're talking about a $300,000 operation spending increase. So we've got a big increase to our budget regardless to reflect what we're already spending.
Thank you, Councillor Bressy. Any other comments? You're going to move ahead with your motion? Okay, I'll call the question. That is carried. All right. Anything else on this line? We're good. We can move on. Thank you. Pardon? Thank you. Thank you for all your time and questions. Thank you, Mr. Shaban, for being online and answering all our questions too. It's been a long morning for you. I apologize, but it's complicated, and we want to make sure we make the right decision. So thank you for coming.
No. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. We're just going to take a moment to switch over.
Goodbye.
Welcome back. Apologies, technology. We had to switch over to another feed. And so we're going to continue our Operational Services Committee for June 6, 2023. Currently, we are on line item 4.3 in our agenda. And Chief Glavin, could you introduce the stormwater utility billing?
Thank you, Chair Bosch. So the city's been undertaking the development of a storm utility for a couple of years now, and we've been directed to implement the utility using the impervious service area model. As part of this development, we have investigated both internal and external billing options. Administration is recommending that we enter into negotiations with Aquaterra Utilities to provide billing services for the City of Grande Prairie stormwater utility, and to also approve implementation costs of up to $544,000 to be funded from financial stability or stabilization reserve. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to our consultant leading the project, Baron Mans.
Thank you, Chief Glavin. Mr. Mans, welcome.
Thank you, and good morning. With respect to the recommended option of Aquaterra providing billing services, their proposal looks at segmenting the overall customers into two segments. Most of the customers, about 88%, are residential, and so single-family duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, where there's a direct match between Aquaterra's water meter-based billing system and the city's tax roll system. So it makes billing on an impervious area basis quite straightforward. The remaining customers, the non-residential, the commercial, industrial, 2,500 or so customers, there isn't necessarily a one-to-one match. And so those customers would be treated differently in that they would be billed in a separate cycle. They would be billed to the property owners and would be billed in a way that identifies those stormwater utility bills as coming from the city, because it would be only a stormwater utility bill. The other residential customers, the 88%, would be billed through Aquaterra's current billing system. So it would show up on the monthly bill as a new line item as a stormwater utility charge. One of the activities through the implementation will be to develop communication so that it's clear to customers that the bills are a city utility and a stormwater charge and not an Aquaterra charge. And so the implementation, once the agreement is entered into, should be complete around April or so. The recommendation is that the utility commence operations or billing commence then July 1st of next year. That would allow a little bit of slack time, as well as for those customers that wouldn't see a commensurate tax reduction. It would reduce the first year's impact from a budgeting perspective for them. And so I'd be pleased to answer any further questions respecting the billing options provided.
Thank you, Mr. Mans. I do have one question. You say here in your analysis the average billing cost is $314,000, but in the table, the Aquaterra cost is $453,000. What did I miss?
The average cost is spread over a number of years, and so there is a spike. The implementation costs are higher than the ongoing annual billing costs. So to get us into a fully functioning billing system requires that higher initial cost between now and when the billing will commence.
So you're saying it's a one and done, and then it goes to $314,000?
That $314,000 is an average that includes the implementation, so it's actually a bit less than that, averaged out over a 5-year period.
Thank you. That was like the glaring obvious question for me. Councillor Bressie.
Great, thank you. I'm just a little bit confused on the commercial customer side. So is it every commercial customer is going to receive this separate bill, or just the non-metered commercial customers?
It'll be non-residential customers, so anything larger than a fourplex, and then all of the businesses and industry. So, and they would be based on the tax roll. So every one that would get a property tax notice would also get a stormwater utility bill.
But that's every property, regardless of whether or not they have a water meter.
That's correct. Yes.
Awesome. Thank you.
Councillor Thiessen?
Thank you very much, Chair Bosch. Thanks for being here for this, gentleman. I guess my question is around like how we'll make certain that people recognize that this is a distinct utility bill from the City of Grande Prairie and not an extra charge to Aquaterra or an extra page to their bill that they have no idea what came from. Would we be mailing out the stormwater billing or bills separately from the Aquaterra bills, or would they all be the ones that get paper mailed out? Would they all be part of the same bill?
So the residential customers would see a one-line charge on their Aquaterra bill. So that would look the same. Their bottom line would increase, and there would need to be communication both before and on an ongoing basis that customers distinguish that as a stormwater charge and not an Aquaterra charge. Aquaterra does provide third-party billing for other communities. For example, outside the city, Aquaterra bills garbage collection on behalf of the municipalities, even though that's not an Aquaterra provided service. So it'd be similar to that.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'm going to ask that $139,600, or let's say $140,000 extra for the one-time year, I guess, to start this up through Aquaterra, and then we have a $90,000 cost to the city. Is that a one-time as well, or is that additionally every year the 90?
The $90,000 is a one-time cost related to implementation. So it includes a communication piece and the additional efforts, both internal and external, to support the implementation and the creation of the databases that are required.
Okay, thank you. And I believe that this extra, so the roughly 40,000 and the 90, that is coming out of which fund? Yeah. Okay, financial stabilization. Okay. Thank you. Councillor Thiessen.
If there's no further discussion, I'm prepared to make a motion here.
Go ahead.
All right, I would move that committee recommend council to direct administration to enter into negotiations with Aquaterra Utilities, Inc. to provide billing services for the City of Grande Prairie stormwater utility, and 2, approve stormwater utility implementation costs of up to $544,000 to be funded from the Financial Stabilization Reserve. Now, just to speak to this motion, I'd like to thank our administration here today for bringing forward this report. I think council made it very clear we want to have some distinction that this isn't just an extra tax and that it'll be appropriately reflected. I know by the sounds of it, it sounds like a franchise fee line that would potentially go on there, but I have confidence that we'll make it distinct and that it'll separate it from the extra tax grab people that might be saying that that's exactly what it is. And I think this is the appropriate use of Aquaterra, not just as one of the shareholders of it, but that they are our main utility that we own shares in. So I like this, and the money that we're taking out of Financial Stabilization Reserve, for anyone who cares about the dollars and cents, according to the report, this system will be fully funding itself, and this extra that we're going to deplete out of the reserves will also come back through future billing cycles. So appreciate the work, everyone involved. Thank you very much, and I hope everyone will support this.
Thank you, Councillor Thiessen. That motion is in order. Any comments or questions? I'll call the question. That is carried, and thank you for your time, Mr. Mann and administration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, if everything was that quick this morning, hey? We're going to move right into our outstanding items list, if that's okay, Mr. Glavin, and get this meeting completed.
Thank you, Chair Bosch. We'll start with the top item here, Swanhaven Outdoor Rink. So this motion was further clarified at the last meeting that also bringing back additional locations, potential designs for this. We're hoping to have this back in July. So we'll bring in Q3 and Mr. DeVries will likely be the presenter of that report. We're also working with Sports Development, Wellness, and Culture regarding the locations. For the Avondale Recreation Site, that's still on track for third quarter. The crosswalk painting, we're planning to have that report for next committee, so that's currently on track. Item 1230, the Design and Construction Standards Review Terms of Reference. This is the one where initially administration proposed $500,000. The budget's currently $250,000. So what we're doing in the background right now is trying to come up with a plan to do some of that work internally to have a better revised terms of reference and budget when we come back. So this is likely going to slip into Q3 of this year in order to do some of that work so we can provide a little better recommendation. And for the Fire Smart information, administration is meeting this afternoon to assign who will be bringing this back and approximately how long it's going to take us to do that. So that work's happening with our Parks Department, Fire, and a number of other internal departments.
Thank you, Chief Glavin. And Councillor O'Toole wants to do the business with us.
Yeah, I can go ahead and do the outstanding items list. I move the committee receive the June 6, 2023 outstanding items list as amended for information.
Thank you, Councillor O'Toole. We'll call the question. And that is carried. We didn't even know, but it is. And we're going to adjourn.